Hello and welcome to CATSweek. I'm Annalise Poorman. Ellisville Planning Director Kevin Talati presented Building Department text amendments during the February 24th Ellisville Town Council meeting. He spoke about new permit requirements for detached accessory structures.
Currently, our code was a little conflicting whether it was 120 feet or over 120 feet. We actually backed it down to anything over 99 feet, so 100 feet or more requires a permit. That partially is to give us a little more oversight to kind of keep people from putting sheds and easements and other things that eventually cause other problems.
Talati said residents cannot live in accessory structures. He said requirement details were added to the site improvement permit section.
This goes into more of what we require when building permits come in, what activities are exempt from permits, what's required in the application, and we added a section on review period, so if anyone does apply, or whenever someone does apply, they know when to expect it back.
The Town Council approved all of the text amendments. The Bloomington Board of Park Commissioners approved new community farmers market rules of behavior during their February 25th meeting. Market coordinator Marcia Veldman said the rules of behavior outlines market and protest areas, acceptable market activities, and recently passed administrative policy.
One update made to the rules of behavior since those that were included in the January 9th, 2020 Park Board packet is the addition of a reference to the applicability of the Department Administrative Policy 2050 regarding removal and suspension from property owned, managed, or operated by the City of Bloomington Parks and Recreation Department.
Parks and Recreation Administrator Paula McDevitt said the policy allows relocation or arrest of people incompliant to market rules of behavior. Board member Kathleen Mills said 7 designated protest areas surround the market and that protesters in the market space cause an inconvenience.
I also recognize, again, that the point of protest is often to cause a disruption. The point of protest is to be right there, inches away from what it is that you're trying to affect. I totally get that. But I think if we have a free-for-all of protests, that we probably don't have a market anymore. And we have voted to continue a market, and that's what we're charged with doing. If we're having a market, we're having a market. I'm not sure the public wants to run a gauntlet through various sides of protesters to buy cucumbers and bread, but I understand that the point. I understand the frustrations, and I understand the point of protest is to.
Local activist Lisa Marie Hacker said the rules of behavior do not protect marginalized people. One concerned citizen said the proposed policy uses ambiguous language to lie and avoid the truth.
When you create a zone to take up more space in the market where you know protesters were last summer and you call it a free speech zone when it's designed to silence them, that's equivocation. When you wear purple in defiance of a protest because you want to normalize it and pretend like it doesn't mean what it means, that's equivocation. When you call anything free speech that's meant to silence it, it's equivocation. And when you say that you believe in diversity, but your policies support white supremacy, that's equivocation.
A Bloomington resident claimed the board was creating an all-white market. He said the policy is racist and will guarantee police violence.
If people engage in free speech, constitutionally protected free speech activity in the market, political speech, where they choose, not these bullshit free speech zones, you're threatening them with police violence. The police will come arrest them. If they still want to exercise their free speech, the police will use violence. The only way violence will not happen in that situation is if the person who is exercising their free speech, self-censors themselves and chooses to stop. This is why I say that it's a threat of police violence.
The Board of Park Commissioners passed the rules 2-1 with yes votes from Kathleen Mills and Les Coyne and 1 no vote from Israel Herrera. And we'll have more CATSweek after this message.
Let's talk about sex.
What is consent?
And what's not?
Consent is based on choice.
Consent is active, not passive.
Consent is giving permission without feeling pressure.
What is not consent?
Silence.
Passed out.
Intoxicated.
Fear.
Is
It is not consent.
God consent?
Ask.
Sex without consent is a crime. Only yes means yes.
Welcome back to CATSweek. The Monroe County Community School Board discussed a composting partnership with JB Salvage and Green Earth Recycling during their February 25th meeting. Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction, Dr. Mark A. Winston, said the Academy, Marlon Elementary, and Templeton Elementary schools have adopted the program.
And so what's happening basically in our cafeterias, we have identified ways to help our students to better understand how composting is going to be beneficial to our schools, to our country, to our community, and to our land. And so each of the 3 early adopter schools are going to have a compost bin that will be placed within our lunchrooms. They will also have a 5-gallon bucket for liquid waste.
Winston said waste will be picked up twice a week. She said approximately 170,000 pounds of food waste would be composted annually from high schools alone, and also mentioned additional curriculum opportunities.
Our science coordinator is working very closely on the development of lesson plans and curricular resources to provide to our teachers. Our teachers have already begun to look at project-based learning initiatives as well as STEM activities to make sure that our students continue to understand the overall benefit of composting.
Winston said frequent composting updates will be presented to the board. Also during the meeting, board members approved a Monroe County Public Library 6-acre purchase agreement of Bachelor Middle School property. Board member Keith Klein said the purchase will benefit both students and the community.
I just want to say this is an incredible win-win for both the library and the MCCSC. This couldn't be a better arrangement to have a library on our property to serve our kids as well as the rest of the community. It's amazing, and I thank whoever negotiated this because it's the kind of thing we ought to be doing, it's the kind of thing they ought to be doing, and it's a marriage made in heaven. Thank you.
The next regular school board meeting will be on March 24th. During the February 25th County Council work session, County Attorney Jeff Cockerell discussed a tax abatement application process. He described the structure of a 10-year tax abatement.
And I think there's a slight variation between a real or personal property as far as the percentage, but essentially when we look at them, there's the first year 100% of the value is abated. That's the first year after they've let's talk about a new building. They build a new building. They get the 322 from the assessor, and it's the first year it's been put on the tax roll. 100% of that increased in assessed value, not the base value or the value of things that are there, but only for what's increased. 100% of that increase is abated, and then year 2 it's 90%, year 3 it's 80%, year 4 it's 70%, 60, 50, I think that's kind of the idea until after 10 years there's no abatement left.
Councilor Marty Hawk said abatement assessed values grow each year. Cockerell said a business estimated 10-year tax abatement incentives will be presented to the council. Hawk asked Cockerell about abatement qualifications for service companies.
At one time it was that it could not be, we would not give an abatement to a service company. That is still the case? In other words, if they're providing a service and not a product, they did not get an abatement. They weren't considered for an abatement. I remember one time there was one that a partial amount of the building was going to be for service. I think it was like lawn care service or something.
I think I know what you're talking about. I think the retail component, I think, is what we looked at. I remember we got we had discussions with a company who had a retail portion of the business and a repair portion of the business, and the repair portion of the business, which is technically a service, is something that we can give abatement for that type of equipment, but the retail portion, statutorily, you're precluded from giving it for certain retail activities, and that would have been precluded from getting an abatement.
So that's still in place then?
The retail component definitely is.
Councilmember Jeff McKim said the goal is to bring outside money into the county. Councilmembers Hawk and McKim agreed with member Eric Spoonmore, who said restricting service companies would not allow economic growth.
To do some kind of a blanket concept that, you know, we're not going to allow any service provider to get a tax abatement, I think is crazy, because, you know, you'll never be able to attract any tech companies into Monroe County or Bloomington, and these are the kinds of, you know, those could expand way outside of Monroe County. And so we want those jobs here. We want those types of companies here. And just because they provide a service.
You count that as a service company if it's
Well, if they're, you know, cloud computing and that kind of
But
thing.
they bring money from the outside.
Yeah, as long
I think
as
that's
they
the
bring
key.
Yeah.
We're talking the same thing.
Hawk said the most recent abatement qualifications are from 1996 and need to be updated. She said a business with total compensation and benefits of less than $12 per employee would not be allowed abatement under current qualifications. Cockerell said the Economic Development Commission could revise the qualifications. Hawk said tax abatements go beyond job creation.
When we support tax abatement, when it's appropriate, that sends a message out, not just to the people in our community, but throughout. Anybody who's looking for a place to go grow jobs, they want to know that community wants them, and that's a part of the package that says we welcome you here, bring your jobs here, the kind of quality jobs we're looking for. So it really is. It is all tied back to affordable housing, because if somebody has a job making enough money, they can afford the house. I mean, that's my idea of affordable housing. Give them the opportunity to have a job, to earn their own living, pay their own house payment at a price that their income will support.
Cockerell said the abatement application has not yet arrived. The next County Council meeting will be on March 10th. And we'll have more CATSweek after this message.
I'm at risk of thinking there's just no point in trying. I'm at risk of looking in the mirror and hating what I see.
I'm at risk of regretting what I do, just to join the crowd.
I'm at risk of being told not to tell. And you would never know it by looking at me. But with Girls Inc. in my corner, there for me every day, believing in me,
showing me what's possible,
I can be strong enough to respect myself and my body, to say I can rather than I can't,
to say no with no apology,
to be a leader, to finish school,
to own my future,
to break the cycle.
Girls Inc. believes every girl can succeed. That's why the trained professionals of Girls Inc. are there for our girls every day, supporting, mentoring, and guiding them in a safe, girls-only environment. Building bonds that last for years and change that lasts a lifetime. Girls Inc. gives girls the tools they need to boldly face challenges, to resist peer pressure, to be the first in their families to go to college, to beat the odds. With Girls Inc. in her corner, every girl can be healthy, confident, and resilient. She'll do more than dream about her potential. She'll reach it.
With you in my corner. With you in my corner, I will not be another statistic. I will fight for myself.
For my future.
With you in my corner, I will win.
Fuel her fire and she will change the world. Girls Inc. Inspiring all girls to be strong, smart, and bold.
Welcome back to CATSweek. The Bloomington City Council Land Use Committee continued discussion about an Arlington Drive zoning ordinance and preliminary plat during their February 26th meeting. Project architect Dan Moriarty said the site plan involves 4 development areas.
For those who may be seeing it for the first time, we have a series of building types. We have a 4-story multifamily building, a series of townhomes, some cottages, and then also some single-family homes over here to the north. They're in what we call Section A, which is here.
Moriarty said additional townhomes were planned. However, the total number of beds did not change. Councilmember Stephen Volan asked Moriarty about housing front beautification.
What can we do to make both sides, both sets of asphalt here look more like a street and less like a parking lot? If you've got this one building on the right that it's fronting on the parking lot, and the other building, its back is to the parking lot, it doesn't sound inspiring exactly. Like if the back of this left-hand building also looked like the front, that would help. I mean, it seems pretty promising from here, but that's all I'm getting at.
Yeah. Right. The one choice we have, just Jeff, quickly is, or not choice, but one thing we haven't developed yet or had time is if you think about the first floor of that townhome, it's basically a living, dining, and kitchen area, right? So it's an open plan across the back, and then the intent is to have outdoor area or patio. In fact, one of these would be a door that would come out. Now, would it be look like an entrance? Probably not. I mean, we would probably I think we want the streetscape to have the prominent facade as far as entry exit. Now, maybe not. I mean, there is an option where you could flip those.
Volan said dispersed parallel parking would downsize the parking lot and create a better streetscape. He also said parallel parking would reduce traffic speed. Bloomington resident Sharon Roulet asked about city-dedicated housing plans.
Will there be duplexes? Will there be triplexes? Are you going to sell the property and then keep the money? Are you going to build all the homes simultaneously? Will they all be the same kind of things like a habitat community? Or will, somebody comes along and says, well, I'd like to build a log cabin on mine, or I'd like to build a triplex on this lot. Are they going to have any uniformity, or are they going to fit in with the rest of the complex?
Councilmember Matt Flaherty proposed a reasonable condition regarding a city-run bus route partnership.
In short, it is trying to memorialize what has been discussed already with a few minor changes. I think based on last week's discussion, the committee members were somewhat concerned about the short period of service on the weekends, so I wanted Mr. May to price out a slightly longer period on Saturdays and Sundays, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. The previous pricing we had looked at was 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. That increased annual cost from about $338,000 to $358,000, and that amount is reflected in item or bullet number 2 of the proposed reasonable condition. So again, that service would be a new proposed Route 10, which would be a 40-minute frequency, 360 days of service per year. Hours of operation would be 7 to 10 Monday through Friday, and 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Saturday and Sunday.
The Land Use Committee recommended petition approval as amended to the Council. At their February 27th meeting, Historic Preservation Program Manager Connor Hederich proposed an adaptive reuse petition for the Kiln building to the Bloomington Historic Preservation Commission.
The Kiln building is located in the Shower Brothers Furniture Factory Historic District. The adaptive reuse of this building is part of a larger initiative that's been going on for decades to utilize Historic Showers campus to contribute to the success of the city's proposed trades district. The adaptive reuse of this kiln is to convert it to office/commercial space. There's going to be a conversion of the original bay openings into glass-framed entrances, approximately 2-story rooftop addition. Materials we're looking at: aluminum-clad pillow lifestyle windows, standing seam metal siding, flush panel metal siding, wood soffit material, and some reuse of original kiln brick.
Hetterich said the roof addition will not disturb any character-defining features. Commission member Chris Sturbaum asked about the second-story glass panel railing.
I really think the glass rail calls too much attention to itself, and that there's industrial rail all over. And if it just humbly had an industrial rail up there, it would still function beautifully. And it would just integrate a little better with not only the building, but the site. I think it wants to show off a little bit, and I think it detracts by its attraction.
Commission member Duncan Campbell said the building front looks like a shopping mall and does not complement the building's original intent. He suggested more industrial building adaptation designs.
The normal sort of protocol when you do an adaptation of an industrial building is that you try to stay in some form in industrial motif. And take, for instance, the entrance to this building. On both sides, the one on the Cook side and the one on this side, they're very modern interpretations. But they treat the building with the kinds of materials that are of an industrial origin. And so even though they are totally different and create entrances where there never were any, they read as industrial. And that's a commitment that those architects made to this building that I think works pretty well. And I'm not seeing that here. Like, I think this is more of an attempt to completely make it over. And what preservationists like to see is some aspect of the original intent of the building incorporated into the makeover.
The petition was continued to the Historic Preservation Commission's March 12th meeting. And that is all for CATSweek. Thank you for joining us. For CATS and WFHB, I'm Annalise Poorman.